I watched a 25-year-old get my promotion, and then they asked me to train her. Here's what I said: no, not sorry, not maybe later, not let me check my schedule, just no. She looked shocked. My manager looked furious, and HR sent me an email about being a team player. I didn't care, because here's what just happened: they passed me over for a promotion that I had earned, gave it to someone fresh out of grad school with zero experience, and then expected me to teach her how to do the job they said I wasn't good enough for. The audacity is stunning, isn't it?
Hmm,
You want me to train my replacement? Pay me. You want my 25
that's
years of
interesting.
knowledge? Pay me. Consulting rates triple my salary. You want me to smile while you're humiliating me? Wrong person. I am not your free training program. I am not here to make your cheap labor look competent, and I am not going to hand over everything I know so you can pay her
Hmm,
half of what you pay me. They told me I was being unprofessional. I told them I was being
hmm?
appropriately compensated for my expertise, or I wasn't sharing it, and they said I wasn't supporting the team. I said the team didn't support me when I asked why I didn't get the role. Silence. Here's what I learned: the second you stop being useful, they stop pretending to care. So stop pretending you owe them anything. I watched 20.
That's interesting. That is an interesting scenario because I would argue that if she was this direct and upfront during the interview process or during the evaluation process where they were deciding whether or not they would want to, bring her onto the company, ultimately the negotiation process when before you're actually starting the job, then this would be very normal, right? To be able to just talk this direct and just state exactly what you want and what you would expect, as well as you will be negotiating what you're willing to do and what the actual roles and responsibilities of the position are. And a lot of times they'll have it on the job posting, wherever they post the application. They'll have the roles and responsibilities, and then they can outline it, and you all can come together and make sure there's mutual alignment. And ultimately, what you're communicating is that you're you want to be compensated this to be able to do these roles. Now, I would have to gather that when she took her job, whatever she's doing, training somebody else for the role that she's looking for or that she actually wanted, I doubt that was part of the roles and responsibilities of the original job. So it sounds like the scope of work might have changed. And so she wisely got back into that mode and was basically able to reframe herself back to how you should when you're basically negotiating something. I think that that was the right thing to do, especially if you applied for it and they said that you weren't qualified, but then they're having you train somebody for the role that you weren't qualified for. That sounds kind of crazy. And I'm not mad at wanting to get like a consulting fee or a compensation, but it seems like the job may be kind of gaslighting her and may not be being fair. And so I think that sometimes too, they can use, they can blindside you and basically do something unexpected. And then it sounds like she had to react in real time because you don't want to say that you will do it. And then now it's like you're a liar, but you kind of sprung it on me. So it's just a very weird predicament. But funny enough, I've actually heard of situations like this happening all the time. But a lot of times it's usually more covert than this, right? It's usually you training somebody to do your current position and then they replace you. But a lot of times it's when you already have a higher position. She said that they basically was asking her to train this person to do a position above her that she applied for that they said she couldn't do. But apparently it seems like she already has the training and she already has the know-how to be able to do that position. So it kind of should have just been a easy plug and play, right? But in what she said, the attempt to save some money, as well as be able to get or extract everything from her to where they can outline it as well, and maybe even put procedures and policies in place. And they tried to basically take advantage of her, I guess, and she wasn't going for it. But we can get some more context. I have a story. Y'all, before we do, if you could like the video, I greatly appreciate it. Only takes a second and it actually helps out more than you know. And also if you could hype. So here's a story. And it's I'm not your free training program. Company asked woman to train the 25-year-old they promoted over her. She refused. They expected me to teach her the job they said I wasn't good enough for. And you can see this is a relatively new story, February 2026. But so a TikTok creator is going viral after refusing to train a 25-year-old coworker who was promoted over her, arguing that companies routinely exploit experienced workers while favoring younger and cheaper employees. The creator, who goes by the unobsolete, said her employer expected her to hand over decades of knowledge for free, despite passing her over for the role. And they expected me to teach her the job they said I wasn't good enough for. She went on to say that if they wanted her 25 years of knowledge, they would have to pay her appropriately. Furthermore, she was not going to be passed up for someone younger, willing to work for a fraction of her salary, and then use her experience to train them. I'm not your free training program, she explained. Want me to smile while you humiliate me? It said the creator received backlash from her company for her decision, but she told viewers that she didn't care. They said I was not a supporting team. I said the team didn't support me. The video concluded with some words of advice for navigating the corporate landscape. The second you stop being useful, they stop pretending to care. That's pretty much what she said. But apparently, TikTok rallied behind her refusal, and the video immediately went viral and it received 4 million views and 400,000 likes. And most comments were in support of the creator, applauding her for setting boundaries and pushing back against the age discrimination. I thought that that could also be a part of it as well. I didn't want to say it, but I figured that that could also possibly be a part of it, especially if she gets that position, starts working, and then retires short after, and then they still have no idea how she was doing that position. And so then they still have to bring her back to consult. Or, God forbid she passes away. Then what you gonna do? It sounds like she's very valuable and they were trying to extract some of that from her. Can't be a team player for a team you played on, said one user. Or that played you, said one user. Another says someone should tell corporate America that is illegal. Another simply wrote ageism is very alive and well. Others recounted their own workplace inequities. They hired 6 people to replace me and the work I was doing and wanted me to train them, one TikToker recounted. Okay, so let's talk about what happened next. So what happened next was a day after posting the TikTok, she posted an update to her situation, which garnered 2.3, which we're going to review. She shared that she had a meeting discussing her attitude. While she didn't get fired, which would be illegal, after the meeting, she began being excluded from the company functions and given less work. Additionally, her interactions were constantly being scrutinized, and this was no surprise as she warned in the meeting that the company's culture might not be a good fit for her. Okay, well, let's watch that part too.
Best performer at work, you get punished. You know what happens when you're the best performer at work? You get punished for it, and here's how that happens. You finish your work fast and efficiently. Great! Here's 3 more projects. Same deadline, same pay. You solve a problem no one else can solve. Congratulations! That's your problem now, forever. Plus everyone else's version of the same problem. You stay late to meet a deadline? Perfect. Now that's expectation. Every time you go above and beyond once, that becomes your baseline. And you know what? Anything else is underperforming for you. This is called performance punishment. The better you are at your job, the more work you get for the same money. While the mediocre employee, Kim, who does the bare minimum, they go home at 5. No stress, no extra projects, same paycheck. You're getting punished for being good at your job. And here's the part that makes it worse. When that promotion time comes around, they don't promote you because you're too valuable exactly where
Right.
you are. We can't
Yeah.
afford to move you. You're doing the work of 3 people. So they promote Kim, the mediocre person who has time to network and play politics, because they're not buried under the workload that you create. You know what happens?
Yes, exactly. That was what I was going to really say is probably the case, which can happen, which it really sucks that when you get at a certain position and you become very valuable at that position, you become very skilled and knowledgeable at that position, you can actually find yourself, when you deserve a promotion, you can find yourself being stuck at that position because remember, upper management, up the ladder, they're counting on the people below to hit certain metrics because their job is to manage you, right? And get you to hit certain goals and get you to complete certain deadlines or certain certain things that have to get done, and so that it can reflect on them. And a lot of times they have bonuses attached to that. So really think about it. Imagine you have a bonus where you could get an extra 30 grand. And so what are you going to do? You're going to try to make sure you got the best team below you that can hit those milestones so that you can ultimately get that extra 30 grand. So you're not incentivized to take your best people and allow them to move up. But your best people are the ones who are probably padding a good percentage of your numbers to make sure that you're in the scope and you're in the range of hitting the milestones and the checkpoints you need to for you to get paid, and not just get paid. Remember, the metrics are also going to be certain permanent things that can never be stripped from you. Here's what I mean. If you're in an upper position, you want to have as many feats and accomplishments to be able to tout if you ever wanted to move somewhere else, whether that's laterally or maybe even promote somewhere else at a higher position. So you're not going to do anything that's going to take away from your numbers whatsoever. If anything, you're going to try to build on. And what can also happen is, let's just say you hire a new person and they're not as good as what you thought they would be. And you were expecting them to be at a certain point within a certain time frame to maybe even be able to provide a buffer so that people who deserve certain promotions can move up. But let's say this person doesn't work out and they're not all that they stated that they will be. Well, now you got a bad seed. You got someone who sucks. You wasted your time. And so you still got old reliable here, who, like she said, is doing the work of three people. So she was able to pick up that slack, and now that gives you a little bit more time to see if you can find somebody who's a better fit. But you're relying on old reliable. But old reliable has a life too. Old reliable has dreams too. Old reliable has goals too. But sadly, what's probably going to happen is that old reliable is going to get the ish end of the stick, which it seems like she was possibly getting. And so it's just very unfortunate.
To the woman who got my promotion when I refused to train her, there are some things that they didn't tell you. They told you that I left because I wasn't a team player. What they didn't tell you is I left because I said no to training you for free. That's what not being a team player actually means. They didn't tell you that the promotion isn't a promotion. It's my job, the one I built for years, with no raise for you. Just a better title. And they didn't tell you why they needed me to train you, because that job has no documentation, no processes written down, no
Right. Didn't I
roadmap,
say it?
just years of institutional knowledge that walked out the door with me. And they didn't tell you the job is actually three jobs, that they split my work between you and two other people after I left. And they're paying you for one. And they didn't tell you that you weren't the first choice. I was. For that promotion, for 3 years, they dangled it in front of me, and then they gave it to you when I became a problem. And they didn't tell you what happened 4 months after you started. You quit. Because the job, well, it was too much for one person. It was too much when it was my job. That's why I had boundaries. And that's why I said no. They didn't tell you about the colleague moles and the people being extra nice while reporting everything back to management. You'll figure that one out. And they didn't tell you the same pattern they ran on me, they're going to run on you. The compliments while building your file, the secret meetings about your performance, and the slow, systematic dismantling when you cost too much or push back too hard. And here's what I want you to know. I didn't refuse to train you because I didn't like you. I refused because they were asking me to work myself out of a job for free and participate in my own replacement. And I said no to that. You lasted 4 months. I don't blame you for leaving. I blame them for setting us both up. So the next time they ask you to train your replacement, remember me and say no to the woman who got.
Yeah, I told you. So they didn't have anything written down procedural wise, which I mentioned earlier. And so they saw that. Maybe they got a consultant who said, this woman is too valuable and she's older. So a whole lot of things can come down from that to where it could put the business at risk. But it's kind of like that pride thing where it's like, well, we own you. You work for us. You've been working for us. We're used to you. And we feel like you should just give that for free. And she knew her value. And she said, well, no, before, because most people will just do that. Most people do that. And I don't think it's necessarily wrong to do that, depending on how you feel, if you feel valued. But she mentioned they've been dangling the carrot in front of her face for 3 years. And it appears she's been doing a good job. And not to mention, she said that she was doing 3 jobs in one. What does this tell us? This tells us that she's probably been there long enough to where she remembers when those different tasks were 3 jobs. And it seems like she kept a good attitude about it and just did the added workload, maybe because she still just wanted to keep her job, but maybe because she felt like that would earn her that carrot that they've been dangling. And so when she didn't get it, then she felt slighted. And then here's the thing. It's easier to bring in a new person to do the three different things in one role because they didn't know that it didn't used to be 3 different things. But she revealed it, and then probably that person started looking at it like, yeah, this is a lot. And I really don't know what I'm doing, and they really haven't been training me very well because they would have needed her to train them. And so what she mentioned is that the other person left after 4 months because she was like, "Oh no, it can be easier than this." And then she found out that also they're trying to get me to do it for less than what it actually costs, which is another thing. When you need to pay people less, instead of paying the people who've been there less, that'll never work. What do you think is easier to do? It's easier to just get some new people who didn't know that that is less and who are willing to take it. And that's how cutthroat business can get, and that's how it often gets. And so this is a rare instance where somebody actually stood up and knew their worth and knew that when things change, then that means we have to renegotiate because this wasn't the original agreement. And it seems like she's been working there for a long time, but she hasn't been working there that long where she forgot about what the original agreement and scope of work was. And so she pivoted in real time. And I don't think that was necessarily a bad move.
They wanted to discuss my attitude. Yep, my attitude. Not the fact that they had passed me over, not the fact that they had expected free labor, but my attitude about refusing to be exploited. And here's what they said. We're concerned you're not being collaborative, and this reflects poorly on your leadership potential. We need team players who
Potential.
support organizational growth. Really? I said, here's what I'm concerned about in case you care. You passed me over for someone with zero experience. You expect me to train her for free, and now you're punishing me for having boundaries. That's not about collaboration. That's about control. Total silence. And then they tried a different angle. If you're not willing to help develop junior staff, maybe you're not a culture fit. And I said, you know what? You're absolutely right. A culture that exploits experience isn't a fit for
Ooh,
me. Let me know when you're ready to have that compensation conversation about training responsibilities. Otherwise, I'm going back to my
ooh, that
actual
was
job.
cold.
Meeting over, they didn't fire me that day because they can't. Fire me for refusing unpaid work opens them up to a lawsuit that they did not want. But here's what they did do. They stopped including me in meetings. They started giving my projects to absolutely everyone else and documented every tiny thing as performance issues. Classic managed out playbook. And you know what? I documented everything right back. Every email, every meeting, every project that they took because I knew exactly what they were doing and they wanted to discuss my attitude. Yep, my attitude. Not the fact that they.
That was cold. And it's cold on both sides, but she was really just defending herself because, oh, sorry. She was really just defending herself because it's like it seems like they was playing in her face, and then they were trying to gaslight her, and I don't like that. And it seemed like it got real toxic. And see, they hit her with they hit her like Trump is about to hit Iran. They hit her with the with the uh with the bomb. What is the bomb that they basically landed on her? Once they say not a culture fit, that's so ambiguous. That's pretty much a catch-all because it's a weird little thing because on her end she's mentioning that you can't fire me for unpaid work, and she's documenting that, and they all know what's going on and they know what the real issue is, but they have to navigate it in a way that doesn't overtly show their intentions as far as what they really want. And see, that culture fit though, there's really no way to argue that. And most jobs are fire at will, especially when we're talking about culture fit. And so there's really no defense to the culture fit. That's like when you just pull out the big guns that there's really no defense to. And I think that she was able to navigate the situation as best as she could. It seems like she ultimately did leave. I don't know what else she's got coming down, but she did the best she could, and I don't necessarily think she's wrong. I think that that's just a very weird situation, and when you can see somebody basically taking your leverage off the table, because her leverage in the situation is her knowledge and her know-how, and it sounds like she would have came up off of that, but she just wanted something to where if she's going to give the company something that they're going to keep forever, right? She just wanted to either be compensated financially or she wanted to get a little bit more skin in the game as far as maybe a higher permission, a higher position, and really the carrot that she mentioned they've been dangling the entire time. But we'll leave it there for today. If you like the video, I greatly appreciate it. Only takes a second and it actually helps out more than you know. And also, if you can hype the video, hype is a new feature that YouTube offers where it helps smaller content creators like myself. And basically, when you hype, it actually pushes us to the extent that it pushes the larger content creators. So you just press the hype button, then it shows the points. And since I'm a smaller content creator, we get more points per hype. And then also Patreon's link below if you want to see self-improvement content as well. But until then, I'll catch you in the next video.